Welcome, everyone. I'm glad you could join me for this refresher webinar. My name is Bud Wassell, and today we're going to be talking about happiness, which, as you see in this slide that I have up here, that gratitude is one of the ways to encourage that or to kind of bring that on. So part of the meditation today will be on that. Let me stop that share for a minute. I'm going to bring something else up because before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about happiness from, I found a couple of great different sources. So let me bring those up. Here's one here. So this article, which by the way, I'll attach to the invite, hopefully I'll remember to do that, called How Happiness Directly Impacts Your Success. It's an article that was in Forbes magazine or Forbes.com, and the author is interviewing Shawn Anchor, who has written a book called The Happiness Advantage. And I like this a lot because he points out that in this highlighted section here that we kind of get the formula for success mixed up. Conventionally, we say that the harder you work will be more successful. The more successful, then we'll be happy. Well, he flips that around basically, and he says if we focus more on happiness and developing that, he says that happiness fuels success. So when we're positive, our brains become more engaged, creative, motivated, energetic, resilient, productive. So kind of makes sense, right? So consider that as a way to kind of like, and I think you probably all are since you're mindfulness practitioners. And then also the question, what specifically impacts our happiness and how can we shift it? And the three greatest predictors of happiness are optimism, which can be changed by looking at our thinking and our beliefs, social connection, and this is of course a huge one. I'm not going to really touch on that today, but we know that social connection and our networks contribute greatly, especially as we're going through tough times. And then the third one, how we perceive stress. And if you've been on my classes where we've shown the video by Kelly McGonigal on how to change your mind about stress, that's really what that's all about, is instead of viewing stress as a challenge or something negative, rather, I mixed that up. Instead of viewing stress as a threat, something negative to be avoided, we can view stress as a challenge, and that stressors actually kind of get us ready for that challenge by bringing on the fight or flight and energizing us. But I also like this 5 keys that he says. So real quickly, bring gratitude to mind. As I said before, that's a key ingredient. So even just simply writing down 3 things that you're grateful for, 3 positive things every day. Journal about a positive experience, and he's just saying 2 minutes a day, that's all it really takes. Exercise at least 15 minutes a day, pointing out cardio activity. Meditate at least 2 minutes a day, that's all, 2 minutes. And the research shows too, again, that it's really more important that we have frequent periods of meditation throughout our week. Okay, so, and then engage in random conscious acts of kindness. So an example, write a 2-minute positive email thanking a friend or colleague or complimenting somebody. So that's one article that I wanted to share. Second one I wanted to bring up is this, let's see if I can do this. No, not that one. This article here, have you heard of Laurie Santos? She is a professor of psychology at Yale, and she is teaching the most popular course that Yale has ever had in its history. And that is, I think of it as the Science of Happiness, but I think there's a better title for it. And it's actually free. So the Science of Wellbeing. And when I send this out, or I'll attach it to the invite, there's a link here. It's from Coursera, you can take the course, and it's actually a college course that you can audit for free. And there's something like 2.5 million people have signed up for this. Really quite incredible. So anyway, she was interviewed by the Business Insider, Mara Layton, and they talk about how to feel happier now in the midst of the pandemic. And she's got 5 kinds of things. And so just to kind of touch on them briefly, pay attention to what makes you feel good, and note if your old feel-good habits no longer do the trick. So, trying to be aware of what's working for you and making you feel good. Ask yourself in the moment how a particular activity really feels. And she kind of points out that that's not that easy to do because we're not always mindful about that. And so if you're trying some mindful practices, I think you're in a better shape because, as she points out here, mindfulness does take a little bit of work. But you're all doing that to some degree, right? I know a bunch of you have participated in the challenge. So think about, I love this one. Think about mental health as a diet. And some activities are junk food. And sometimes your mind will need to eat a salad. So I think she talks about here that sometimes we can sit in front of Netflix, hours on end. And that's kind of the junk food, perhaps. And I'm not being judgmental about that. I do it as well. My wife and I we're watching a whole bunch of stuff. But the point is, like any diet, balance it with the salads and the good nutrients as well. So taking time to make sure you get some good mental health kinds of foods and nutrients in your diet. Recognize that your brain's paths of least resistance don't necessarily lead to happiness. And that's that same kind of thing that, watching TV, scrolling through social media, those kinds of things, they're the easiest things to do, but not always the best for our mental health. I love this one too. Write down ideas for how you ideally spend random small pockets of free time in a day. She basically feels that, there are these small 5-10 minute periods during the day that we kind of sometimes we're not mindful about. We don't take, an intentional way of saying, hey, I could really use that to do a purposeful pause. And which, by the way, we didn't do one today. Apologize for that. But you've heard me talk about mindful minutes, purposeful pauses, so doing maybe writing down a quick gratitude, those 3 things, and then in that 5-10 minutes. Those kinds of things can really be helpful. Challenging activities such as learning a new language and activities that make you feel present, like meditation, are most likely to be enjoyable. So there are things, and I like to point out too that, we shouldn't feel guilty if we haven't learned a new language during this COVID time. There was a great article in the New York Times, which I don't have at my fingertips, but really pointed out that, even if we've just kind of like kept a somewhat even keel during these times and gotten through and not learned a new language or not learned how to play the guitar or not learned to, fill in the blank, don't give yourself a hard time for that. We're all doing the best we can, and that's really the important thing. So I know I threw a lot at you there as a way of introduction, and these articles are going to be available. So I'll put those, as I said, on the invite, and you can take a look at those and read them a little more closely at your convenience. What I'd like to do now is share a video with Tara Brach, and hopefully this works. And the video I've shown parts of it before, but I want to highlight a couple of points of the video. And so let's see, I can make sure I get this up here. Hopefully you can see this okay. So we're going to watch a couple of like 2-minute clips, okay? And if you would tell me let me know in the chat feature there if it's not coming across, but hopefully the audio and the video comes across. Oh yeah, that's a great comment. I just noticed that. Stacy says she took the course. It was fabulous. I'm going to have to take it. I've heard so much about it. All right, so I want to show you a couple of minutes of this. This is a 20-minute video. If you have time, you should go and watch the whole thing. It's really great. But I want to talk a little bit about what undermines happiness, or actually let Tara talk a little bit in 2 minutes here about what undermines happiness, okay?
But here's where the difficulty comes in, and that is that we have a very strong conditioning to fixate to certain vehicles that deliver that pleasure and of this passing happiness, a certain person, our money, our health, that we have to keep it, we need to get more of it. So that undermines happiness when we fixate, when we have to have. As soon as we have to have the world be a certain way, and often it's different than it is, we start suffering because we're arguing with reality. It's when the conditions that we like don't give it, when we don't have those conditions to be happy, we're in trouble because we're dependent on it being a certain way. So there's an inquiry for you again in this, which is to observe today. And you might check it.
I'm going to pause it there quickly. She has these reflections in the video. So as she talks about this, you might just close your eyes and reflect to yourself, okay?
Out. And just to ask yourself, in any moment, did you feel a sense of enough? That the moment was fine just as it was? Were you aware at any time today of enough, just as it is, not wanting anything different? Or do you notice that during the day you were pretty much on your way somewhere else, preparing for something, trying to solve a problem, figure something out, get something else done? So often we're trying to get more comfortable or remove something that's uncomfortable. So another inquiry for you is to ask, what really is between me and happiness? Just find out. You might think of a relationship. What's between me and really just being happy, contented, feeling well-being in this relationship? Or maybe you ask that about your body. What's between me and well-being in my body, just as it is? What's between me and happiness or well-being at work? Really get interested. What is between me and happiness in these different domains of my life? And notice if what you find is that whatever you're considering, there's a sense that in some way you're wanting it different. You want something more, something different, that there's a sense that something's missing. It's so interesting.
So I'm going to pause it there and fast forward. And as I said, I'll include the link too if you want to go and listen to the whole thing in its entirety. But I want to show a couple of minutes towards the end here. So I just cue it up and we'll play here. She talks about kind of our happiness mindset. So listen up.
And it doesn't work. We're regularly wrong. And there's some really interesting research now. They followed 13 lottery winners, and found that winners are ultimately no happier than non-winners. They found that paraplegics usually become as content as people who can walk. that we anticipate good things happening will make us happier than we actually get, and that bad things will make us more miserable. We're not good at predicting, and we organize our life around how we think things are going to be. Some of you might remember the story of a young man who asked God how long 1,000,000 years was to him. And he said, God says, 1,000,000 years to me is just like a second to you. Then the young man said, God, what's $1,000,000 like for you? God says, $1,000,000 to me is just like a penny to you. Then the young man got up his courage and said, God, could I have one of your pennies? And God smiled and said, certainly, just a second. So many of you might know we have a biochemical set point for mood, and that mood doesn't change over time, even if we get what we thought we wanted. We find the partner or the perfect job, or something bad happens, a dear one, we lose a dear one or whatever. Whether it's good or bad, we go back to our set point in about 5 months. It's kind of interesting. So that's one reason that if only mind doesn't work, that it just doesn't deliver. The other reason is that while we're in if only mind, we're not here. We've left the one place. In the moments we're wanting things to be a certain way or trying to get away from things being wrong, we've left the one place, presence, where if we could learn to really be, we could touch really the depth of what brings happiness. In the moments of seeking something, we're leaving the place where true gratification is sourced.
All right, so that was Tara, and pretty heavy stuff there. Don't know, we don't have a whole lot of time, but I wondered if you had any reactions or comments to any of that, and then we'll do the meditation for today. I'm going to put this back up as we do that, just to have something nice to look at. So this idea of, a set point for our mood or our happiness, in other words, kind of makes it sound like we're, that we can't change that. But I think the point she makes at the very end is really the key point too, that with if only mind, or with any of that wishing things were different than they are, we're transporting ourselves out of the present moment, right? And so, of course, with our mindfulness practice, that's what we're cultivating, being in touch more and more with our present moment. And with gratitude practices, I think it just really helps us focus more on the positive, obviously. And we can do that and stay in the present moment, not wishing as if, we had these certain things, but being grateful for the things that we do have. So the meditation today is not just a gratitude meditation. I'm going to start with something called heart breathing. It's by Kelly McGonigal. And then we'll end up with a little bit of gratitude towards the end of the meditation. All right, so first of all, put yourself into a good meditative posture for yourself. And I know you know what that's like for you, where you're sitting or however you're sitting. It doesn't really matter, or even if you're laying down or standing, just a position that's right for you so that you can be comfortable and balanced and upright, and you can be alert in the moment, but also relaxed. And just paying attention, first of all, to your breathing, just being aware that you are breathing and the miracle of this, that it is to keep you alive. And you can close your eyes if you haven't already done so, or keep them slightly open. But with the breath, you don't have to do anything special with the breath. Just let yourself breathe. And as you breathe, notice there's a quality of expansion that occurs that's totally natural. And as you breathe in, you can feel the lungs fill and expand. And as you breathe out, you can feel them settling and dissolving. And if you notice this in the torso, you can sense that in the chest, the belly, and the back, the upper back, and the lower back, that there's this, in a sense, expanding in all directions on the in-breath, and then subsiding in all directions on the out-breath. 360-degree breathing. Just getting into that rhythm for a moment. Breathing in, expanding in all directions. Breathing out, subsiding in all directions. And just let your breath be natural and easy. Don't force it. Just allow the breathing to be what's most comfortable for you. Now, for the next breath, imagine that you can breathe right into the center of your chest, almost as if your nostrils were on your chest or over your heart. And as you breathe in, sense that quality of expansion deepen, as if the breath were nourishing or strengthening the heart. And as you breathe out, sense the breath exhaling almost as an offering from your heart. So just do that for a few breaths. As you breathe in, sensing the quality of expansion deepen as if the breath were nourishing the heart. And as you breathe out, sense the breath exhaling as an offering from your heart. Now, as you do that, imagine or bring to mind something that brings you strength or inspires you. For some, this may be a religious aspect or faith. For others, it's your deepest motivation for your practice or your work. Maybe remembering the big why or purpose for your work. For some, it may be about a specific individual or your kids or a patient or somebody you're about to interact with. Or it could be thinking about the community that supports them and you. Really, it's anything that brings a sense of strength or inspiration or positive motivation. Okay? And I want you to actually imagine breathing that into your heart, and it's strengthening and nourishing your heart. And as you breathe out, you're sending that intention or motivation out into the space around you, to the world around you, so that you're connecting to your compassionate strength, taking it into yourself and then sending it out as an offering. Let's just do that for a moment with the breath, bringing in that inspiration, nourishing the heart as we breathe in, and then sending it out as we breathe out. Nourishing in, send out to the world on the out breath. And now for a section on gratitude. And just repeating this to yourself. I offer my gratitude for the labor and love of the many generations that came before me. I offer my gratitude for the measure of health that I've been given. I offer my gratitude for the people I have been given to love and for those who have supported me. And I offer my gratitude for the beauty and wonder of nature. I offer my gratitude for the knowing mind and the wise heart. And finally, I offer my gratitude for the work I've been given to do and for the gifts and talents I can express there. And just rest in this grateful awareness for a moment. See what that feels like in mind and body and heart. And just to finish the meditation, may you be safe, may you be healthy, may you be happy, may you be well in mind, body, and spirit. May you have care and connection and love. May you find peace and be free from suffering. May you have meaning. And may you find your purpose. And so with that, ending the meditation, you might just be aware of your body in the chair, reconnecting with the world around you, and opening your eyes to finish the meditation. So thank you for being with me today. What was that like for you? Just maybe checking in. What was that particular meditation like? Feel free to, you can unmute yourself or you can use the chat feature, either one. And then I'll let you go. I think it's just about 11. All right, well, remember to go back to the invitation. I will attach these so you can read those. And thank you so much for being with me today. Again, I really appreciate your mindful presence. And yeah, thanks for your comments. Take good care, and again, may you be well, may you be mindful. So enjoy the day and mind the moment. All right, thanks everyone. Bye-bye.